Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we are diving into one of the most intriguing and quietly unfolding stories inside the US Air Force. How American pilots are already training for the secretive F-47 program using the brand new T-7 Red Hawk jets, even though the aircraft itself has not been officially revealed to the public. At first glance, it sounds unbelievable that pilots could be preparing for a next-generation fighter that officially does not exist, but this is exactly how the US military has always worked, building human capability long before the hardware becomes visible. The T-7 Red Hawk is not just another trainer, it is a bridge between today's fighter jets and the classified air dominance platforms of tomorrow. The idea behind the F-47 is not just a new airplane, but an entirely new way of fighting in the air. It is expected to be deeply connected to artificial intelligence, sensor fusion, unmanned wingmen, and network-centric warfare. Training pilots for such an aircraft cannot wait until the jet rolls out of a hangar, because by then it would already be too late. The US Air Force understands that the biggest challenge of sixth-generation air combat is not speed or stealth alone, but decision-making under extreme information overload. This is where the T-7 comes in, because it was designed from the ground up with digital training in mind, something older trainers simply cannot do. Unlike legacy training aircraft, the T-7 Red Hawk uses an open architecture software system. This allows the Air Force to rapidly update the jet's virtual environment, sensors, and simulated threats. In simple terms, pilots can sit in a T-7 and experience scenarios that closely resemble what flying an F-47 might feel like years from now. One of the most important features of the T-7 is its ability to simulate advanced sensors that do not physically exist on the aircraft. Radar, infrared tracking, electronic warfare systems, and data links can all be emulated through software. This means pilots are not just learning to fly, they are learning to manage information like future F-47 pilots will have to do. Training for the F-47 is expected to focus heavily on man-machine teaming. Future pilots will likely control or coordinate with autonomous drones, sometimes called loyal wingmen. The T-7 allows pilots to practice this concept today by simulating AI-controlled assets that react in real time during training missions. This kind of preparation is critical because the role of the pilot is changing. Instead of being a traditional stick and rudder fighter pilot, the F-47 pilot may act more like a battle manager in the sky. The T-7 training syllabus is already being adjusted to reflect this shift in mindset. Another major advantage of the T-7 is its digital twin design. Every aspect of the aircraft exists in a virtual environment, allowing engineers and trainers to modify flight behavior, cockpit displays, and mission systems without physically changing the jet. This flexibility makes it ideal for preparing pilots for an aircraft like the F-47, which is expected to evolve continuously. The cockpit of the T-7 itself is a major step toward the future. It features a large area display similar to what is seen in fifth-generation fighters. Pilots training on the T-7 become comfortable with touchscreen interfaces, diffusion displays, and customizable layouts that will likely be standard in the F-47. This early exposure is extremely valuable. When pilots eventually transition to the F-47, they will not be overwhelmed by the technology. Instead, they will already have years of experience interpreting complex data and making split-second decisions based on it. The US Air Force is also using the T-7 to experiment with new training methods. Traditional training relied heavily on real flight hours, which are expensive and time-consuming. With the T-7, much of the advanced training happens through embedded simulation, reducing cost while increasing realism. This approach allows pilots to face high-end threats that would be impossible or unsafe to recreate in real life. Advanced surface-ware missiles, cyber attacks, electronic jamming, and near-peer adversary fighters can all be simulated in the T-7 environment. These are exactly the threats the F-47 is being designed to counter. Another reason the T-7 is central to F-47 preparation is speed of adaptation. If intelligence suggests a new enemy capability, the training environment can be updated quickly. Pilots can start preparing for future threats years before they appear on the battlefield. The secrecy surrounding the F-47 also makes this training approach necessary. Since details about the aircraft are classified, the Air Force cannot openly train pilots on a real F-47 prototype. Instead, they train the concepts, workflows, and decision-making processes using platforms like the T-7. This strategy mirrors what the US did before the introduction of stealth fighters. Long before the F-117 or F-22 became public, pilots were already training in simulators and modified aircraft to understand stealth tactics and advanced mission planning. What makes the current situation different is the level of realism. The T-7 is not just a placeholder. It is an active part of shaping how future pilots think and fight. In some ways, the training may influence the final design of the F-47 itself. Feedback from pilots training on the T-7 can help engineers refine cockpit layouts, sensor prioritization, and automation levels. This creates a feedback loop where training and development evolve together, something that was much harder to achieve in the past. The emphasis on software is another clue about the F-47's nature. Modern combat aircraft are increasingly defined by code rather than metal. The T-7's software-driven design prepares pilots for frequent updates, new features, and evolving capabilities. This also means future pilots must be comfortable trusting automation while still maintaining full situational awareness. Training on the T-7 focuses heavily on this balance, teaching pilots when to rely on AI and when to take direct control. Another important aspect is multi-domain integration. The F-47 is expected to operate not just in the air, but as part of a broader network that includes space, cyber, and ground forces. The T-7 training environment can simulate this interconnected battle space. Pilots learn how their actions in the air affect operations across multiple domains. This level of integration is essential for future conflicts, where air superiority will depend on coordination rather than isolated performance. The T-7 also supports rapid syllabus changes. As concepts for the F-47 mature, training programs can be adjusted without waiting for new aircraft. This ensures that pilots are always preparing for the most current vision of future air combat. Some critics argue that training for a secret aircraft is risky because requirements can change. However, the Air Force views this as an advantage rather than a problem. By training adaptable pilots instead of platform-specific skills, they reduce the risk of obsolescence. This philosophy is evident in how pilots are evaluated. Instead of focusing solely on flight precision, training emphasizes decision speed, threat prioritization, and teamwork with both humans and AI systems. The T-7 also helps shorten the transition time once the F-47 becomes operational. Pilots graduating from advanced training will already possess many of the cognitive skills required, reducing the learning curve significantly. From a strategic perspective, this early preparation sends a clear message. Even without revealing the aircraft, the US is signaling that it is serious about maintaining air dominance in the coming decades. Potential adversaries may not know the exact capabilities of the F-47, but they can assume that US pilots will be exceptionally well trained to exploit whatever advantages it provides. This approach also reflects lessons learned from recent conflicts, where information dominance and rapid decision-making proved just as important as raw performance. The T-7 training pipeline is designed to produce pilots who thrive in such environments. Another interesting point is how this training affects pilot culture. Future fighter pilots are being raised in a digital-first mindset. They are comfortable with simulation, data analysis, and AI assistance from the very beginning of their careers. This cultural shift is essential for the F-47 era. The aircraft is expected to be part of a system of systems rather than a standalone platform. Pilots must think beyond their own cockpit. The T-7 makes this possible by blending live flying with virtual elements seamlessly. Pilots may fly a real jet while interacting with virtual allies and enemies, creating a hybrid training experience. As the program progresses, the line between training and operations may blur. Techniques developed in the T-7 environment could directly translate into real-world tactics for the F-47. This also means that training will never truly be finished. Pilots will continuously update their skills as software evolves, threats change, and new capabilities are introduced. In the end, the story of U.S. pilots training for the F-47 on the T-7 Red Hawk is not just about a secret aircraft. It is about a fundamental transformation in how air power is developed and sustained. The Air Force is betting that preparing the human element early is just as important as building the most advanced jet. History suggests this is a smart bet. When the F-47 eventually emerges from the shadows, it will not be entering service with inexperienced pilots. Instead, it will be flown by airmen who have already spent years thinking, training, and fighting in a world designed specifically for it. And that is what makes this story so fascinating. The future of air combat is being shaped right now, not in secret hangars alone, but in training jets already flying today.